Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's episode 154. I'm Mike Mylan. That is Blaine Birch. You are listening to Mike and Blaine. Welcome back, people. Blaine Birch, what's going on, man?
That was a much better start than what I attempted last week. right off the cuff.
We got into a rhythm, man. It just kind of flows. It's kind of natural. And then Baltimore Mike screwed it up.
He screwed it up, and then we went even further because then I said I'm going to do the intro last week just because we thought it'd be funny, and then but I hadn't even thought about it, so I was just like I don't even know what I'm saying. so this is good. I'm glad to be back to normal where you're doing the intro and you've righted the ship, which is good.
Hey, you know what's funny is that every time I watch somebody do something on TV or something like that, like Tom Brady throws a football, I'm like going, dude, he just goes back there and stands and throws the ball. I should be able to do that. Well, that's what we found out is that, Baltimore Mike is not like the Tom Brady cash flow Mike on Mike and Blaine. You just can't stand in the pocket and throw like I do, right? You got to.
We can't replace you. That was no. Baltimore Mike, you did an admirable job filling in, but it's good to have you back, Mike. It's yeah.
Well, it's fun. A, I was surprised he did it. B, I was even more surprised that he had notes prepared. He took time. He goes, because he only had like an hour or so before we did this, right? It's like going, yeah. I'm in Colorado, like going, I'm not coming. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, well, I can do it. It's one of those things. I mean, that is a brave choice that needs to be applauded. So, give that guy some love. If you go to our Facebook page, give him some love. Just know, tell Baltimore Mike out there that he did a good job. And, thanks for filling in, when I fell down.
Yeah, exactly. And we're live, we're live streaming right now. So if you guys are if you see us, if you're watching us on Facebook right now, you can chat us up in the chat window here that we figured that out just a couple of weeks ago. And so, yeah, definitely send us a message here. And we got to get into some beer sponsors here too, like Baltimore Mike, one of our high valued, loved beer sponsors. Thanks again, Mike. We got 4 beer sponsors right now.
Yeah, if you don't remember, Baltimore Mike not only shipped beer across the country, he flew beer across the country for you. I mean, that's ridiculously great. So I'm going to bring up Neighbor Pat, right? Because you said something about the new chat feature, and this guy loves it. He's like, what? You mean I can just chat during the thing? I'm like going, yeah, dude, that's a whole lot better because I got notifications turned off while we're recording, so I don't see text as much. But if you see us live, you can chat us up, and we're definitely going to see that because I got it open right now, so I'm ready anytime somebody does it. So Neighbor Pat's brewing a batch of beer for me right now. I forget what he said. Is this a peach or mango? Maybe it's like a mango type thing or whatever. He came over to play bags, and I felt bad for him, so I threw him in the swimming pool instead. So we got in the pool instead of play bags. So I gave him the week off of a butt whipping of bags.
Oh boy. You're lucky he keeps delivering you beer. Well, you're trash talking.
Yeah, come on, you got to talk trash. But then we got Rachel Barnett of Gentle Frog, right? She has been with us for, I think, over a year now, right? So
I think so.
Been with us a year. If you got to learn QuickBooks, if you need to learn QuickBooks, if you don't know anything about QuickBooks, contact Rachel over at Gentle Frog. She'll get you hooked up.
Yeah, and last but definitely not least, Larry Weinstein, CPA out of Houston. If you need some help, you need a CPA, you talk to Larry. You don't even have to be in Houston. He will help you out. So look him up, Larry Weinstein. You can reach out to us, find him on LinkedIn, go chat with Larry.
I just talked to Larry. Guess what? He has just registered a trademark, right? He is now calling himself the Cash Flow Cowboy. So if we talk about Larry, he's the cash flow cowboy. He's going to have pictures taken in his cowboy hat and all that. Texans, they get involved with that. So cash flow cowboy is Larry Weinstein. Nice. I'm going to be the first to put it out there for him.
Yeah, sweet. Good on you, Larry. What are you drinking?
Yeah. All right. So today's topic. All right. So here's what happened with today's topic. I'm talking about just where does the idea come from? When you're going to start a business, how does this happen? Right. And I got a multiple different ways of how things happen for me. I've got some stories about some other folks, but where it came from is that this week I went to Trinity. You know how most of these topics are. If you're new to this show, we make up the topic about 10 minutes before the show, and it's usually something that's happened that week, right? So this week I was at a faculty training at Trinity University, getting ready for the new semester kicking off. And one of the other professors asked me to come in to be on part of a panel in her class. She goes, hey, listen, I mean, the things you've done, can you just come be part of a panel? And we're talking about origin stories. We're talking about how do you go, especially with me, how do you go from being a state trooper right, to business owner and then cash flow Mike? She goes, that's something I think college students need to hear, that there's all these different paths that get you to be an entrepreneur, but where does the idea come from? And not just the idea that I can do it, but there's an idea that I think I can be successful at it, right? That's what I want to talk about today. And in honor of that idea, I went to Spetzel Brewery. Spetzel is one that's kind of bigger and well known. It didn't used to be, but it is now, because most people know it as Shiner, right? You've heard of Shiner Bock. That's kind of their, that's their, so Spetzel Brewery is in Shiner, Texas, and their more popular one is Shiner Bock. But I've seen this one a couple of times and I've never tried it, so I thought I would. But it's their founding year. It's a throwback beer to a heritage type of lager, and they call it 1909. And it's from their founding year. It's that's the year that the Spetzel Brewery was founded. So I in honor of today and origin stories, there it is, Spetzel Brewery.
Okay. We were actually, for probably the first time, thinking along the same lines of origin story. The only difference there is 1595.
I missed it by like 400 years.
Yeah. Trappist Rochefort 10. So this is a Belgian quad. I picked this one because this is like basically, I don't know if these guys invented beer, like the Belgian, the monks in Belgium, the Trappist monks, but if they didn't invent it, they were very, very, very early. And what they did is, this was one of the first ones that I sort of read about that was actually like a kind of a commercial enterprise. And it was, they would brew this beer at the monastery and sell it. And so these guys, this recipe is likely from like the 1500s, like and it's delicious. It's a Belgian quad. It is 11.5%. So those guys, they got into it back then. So it's a little heavy, but it's a delicious beer. Very interesting, these Belgian quads. So if you're interested in Trappist beer, this is a beaut here. So
awesome. So I got a kind of an origin story right now based on, I'm this close to publishing it. I just released it in digital form yesterday. My new book, my third book, called
nice.
Don't Tell Me What to Do, right? Nice. And it's for people that work with clients and people, with conversations you want to have. It's a roadmap to meaningful client conversations, but it's a continuation of my book, Don't Be a Dumb Business Owner, right? So you start to get the theme, don't be a dumb business owner. But dumb is an acronym. Don't understand my business, right? I don't understand my business. So don't tell me what to do. Tell is an acronym as well. It's TELL, and it's terminate every long lecture, because what I get tired of is advisors sitting there and they feel like they have to present to their client. They have to talk at them and they have to have all these charts and things like that. No, make your conversations about a work session. We're going to work together during this hour and we're going to solve problems together. I've got the tools to help identify it. We've got the opportunity together to find solutions, and then we give you homework to go implement.
Yeah.
I get tired of being lectured to by advisors that don't understand my business. So don't tell me what to do because you don't understand my business.
Yeah.
That's just how dumb I am. But the origin story came with, believe it or not, I never thought that somebody would come to me and ask me how to communicate better. Never. So there's an origin story there that's based out of a need where I apparently have a skill, and the skill goes back to, you ever heard the origin story of this whole book idea?
I think it was going back to your state trooper days, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, but here's what happened. So I started training accountants and bookkeepers how to do advisory services. And the first two parts that I taught them were not only the mathematical concepts to do the analysis and make good decisions on what to do next, but teaching them how to package the service together and sell it, right? So that's what it was. Hey, here's the stuff. Here's how to present a package to a client and sell it. Mm-hmm. Well, the next evolution of that was, yeah, I can do the analysis. I can tell them what to do, but they won't take action. They won't listen to me. They won't, how do you do that? How do you actually have the conversation? Mm-hmm. I'm like going, wait a second. First of all, you came to a state trooper to learn math. Now you want to learn now you want me to teach you how to talk to people? You ever seen a state trooper talk to somebody? Yeah.
You've had all kinds of examples, though, that I always find really fascinating of how you actually deal with difficult people, which is probably good practice for dealing with a difficult client, right?
Well, the whole thing, the whole pillar of the way I talk to people is, and not talk to people like in general, but talk to people in an advisory role, is I want commitment, not compliance. I don't want you to do shit just because I told you to do stuff. I want you to be committed to the action because it's going to benefit you and make your life better. Mm-hmm. That's what we're trying to do. It's commitment, not compliance. Well, there's certain ways to get there. And the way we got there was early on in the Highway Patrol, they learned, or I was taught a technique called verbal judo. Right. And it's really a deflection type. It diffuses situations and it deflects what the person's trying to do. Like, I'm not doing a fucking thing you do, trooper. That could be a possible situation we're in. I'm like going, hey, I appreciate that, but I understand that, but it's like wax on, wax off with words, right? So that's the verbal judo. So you just kind of like going, hey, I never let the person's actions dictate the way I reacted, right? So that was a weird thing that was just ingrained in me you got to remember, when you're a criminal, a bad guy, you have this conversation with a police officer once a year, once in your life. That police officer does it every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Like, he's pretty good at talking. Matter of fact, I bet he would rather talk for 30 minutes than fight for 3. I bet he would. Yeah. So that's where it started. Where it evolved was last year, right? So think about that. That's almost 20 years, 25 years since I'd been a trooper, right? It was 1900s, 99, so almost 20 some years. Courtney sat down to watch TV and she was watching the show Hoarders. You ever tell you that? It is the most fantastic show for learning how to communicate with other people that are in positions where they don't want to take action. I will agree with you that hoarding is a terrible disorder. I mean, it's that is not why I watch it. I watch it for the interaction between the psychologist and the person with the disorder. That conversation mirrors the way I have conversations with small business owners, right? Because think about it. The mess they created is their business. It's in trouble. It's in chaos. They're there to defend the situation they've created and made these decisions.
Yeah. You
have to delicately push them through to make a change, right? So, and I can go on about that, but you've heard that story before, though.
Yeah, but like I think the interesting part to me, well, first of all, you're talking about like the sort of the origin story for what you're doing right now.
Yeah. That's where I
You've
started.
had about a dozen before that, right? But see, that's the interesting part. Like, so when you're talking about like, how do you come up with an idea for a business? Virtually every time it's identifying a problem. It's someone else's problem, but sometimes it's your own problem, right? And that is because I think one of the most dangerous things for people coming up with a business idea, they're not really solving a problem. They just kind of came up with something they kind of want to do. Like, it'd be fun. What if I opened a business where, like I said, and I drank beer and people watched me and bought me beer? Like, okay, that's not solving a problem. Like, but how do you identify a true
Did you
problem?
just describe the podcast?
Where do you go from there? What's that?
Did you just describe the podcast?
Yeah, people are buying beer, so we're solving a problem.
Meaning, what kind of business where I could just people watch me and they buy me beer? I'm like, I think you just talked about our podcast.
Well, but we talk as well. I think it's the BS part that people watch for. They don't want to watch us drink beer, but we're solving a problem of entertainment. Drinking beer may not be as entertaining as us bullshitting about everything under the sun. But it still is not, because there's a number of steps you have to go through. Like you identify a problem, and it might be a problem you have, like that with dry run. I've said this on the show a bunch of times. Like back in 2008, I learned cash flow and learned about finance and buried in spreadsheets. And that led me to go, this is painful. I bet other people have this problem, but I went and talked to the whole pile of other people before I did it to go like, okay, is this a problem? Right. Because that's that part is like, you identify the problem and is there a market? Are there people willing to pay you for a solution? And will they pay you enough? And like, there's all these layers that you have to go through. And when entrepreneurs like fail, especially like right out of the gate, it's because they've skipped a step. It's either they're not focused on solving a problem. They're focused on doing something they feel like doing. They haven't identified if there's a true market there that's willing to pay them. And and can they do it better than somebody else? Can they do it better than the competition? Right.
Yeah. So I think the bigger problem, let's go back in time just a little bit on that. Meaning, yeah, you have to identify the problem, but if it's your first time, maybe you're in a safe job. Like I was at work for state government. I mean, it's pretty much, I could see that I could work there the rest of my life. Just go to work, do your job, go home. That's all I got to do. Don't get in trouble. Don't do dumb shit, but just go to work, do your job, go home. To make that change, to have an idea that says, this idea is so fantastic, I'm willing to give up everything for it. I'm willing to give up my job security, my health insurance, rob my 401k, max out my credit cards, take all the savings I got to pursue this idea. So maybe we start there saying, okay, the idea came from somewhere. Then we've got different ways it came from. Like the one I just told you just came from talking to my current clients. The idea for a new course, a new way to go came from them. Mm-hmm. But I've also been party to, I don't know how many times, drinking beer on the back deck with a buddy, like going, shit, that's a good idea. We should do that. I've also been part of those conversations, Yep. And once we took advantage of it. We actually built a bar based on a pinup girl theme called Bottoms Up Brew House that, that was successful. We ended up selling it like 4 years later. So it's like going, there's way, where do these ideas come from? And then are you willing to act? So there's like two things that have to happen. It's a good idea. B, am I willing to act on it? Yeah.
And can you execute? Because, okay, this is something I got to bring up right now. So if you're listening to this and you want to start a business, people that have not been entrepreneurs, like if it's their first time through, overvalue the idea about 100,000-fold. Like all I need is a good idea and then everything happens. No, The good idea is the most basic prereq. If you have a bad idea, you're done before you start. If you have a good idea, now it all becomes execution. And that's a big learning curve. Like, it's all about execution. Like, the second you start, have to have a good idea. But it's worthless. An idea is worthless, but it better be good or it's not even worth starting. Right?
Yeah. So one of the facilitators of this faculty meeting at Trinity this week teaches a college course on creating board games. And I was just sucked in immediately. I don't know what it was about it, but, and she was talking about learning outcomes for that, right? And what do you think a learning outcome might be for creating a board game as a course?
Well, game theory is incredibly valuable. Like, any little bits of reading that I've done on game theory is because game theory stretches way beyond actually making games. Like, game theory is used in all sorts of analysis, and it's used in even things like engagement, like from, let's say, a business side. Like, how do you gamify something? So that whole game theory side, even if you don't design a single board game, that game theory knowledge is massively useful.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and she definitely teaches that. But there were two of her learning outcomes. I'm like going, oh, that's really insightful, right? It was something I wouldn't have thought about. One was learning to play, right? There's this whole thing about play, because there's a transition that happens into adulthood. Now you're being asked to create a board game. You also have to learn how to play, how to actually enjoy it, how to to make what you're doing part of that play, right? That activity. We forget that, right? We get into our first job, we get into our first whatever, we have kids, we have bills, and play moves aside. It just leaves the house. Mm-hmm. So I liked that she has exercises and learning techniques to get people to play again, right? Because she has a firm belief that if you can't play, you can't make a game. I think that's pretty powerful, right? The second thing is that in her learning outcomes is that you will learn how to fail. And because of that, she expects, like in the final project, that the final project will be flawed somehow. And she doesn't deduct points for failure. Mm-hmm. She goes, because that's the learning outcome. I want you to learn that it's just a failure. What happens next is what's more important. Yeah. So it isn't that you turn in a perfect game. You don't turn in a perfect game. You turn in a game that needs iteration.
Yeah. There's no entrepreneur on the planet that has turned in a perfect game. They always say, like, fail fast and they're like, because you build on failure. The thing is, like, when you talk about failure, we're not talking about fatal. Sometimes you can learn from that too. Like, a business could fail and it'll equip you better for the next one. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have failures like probably every day, every week. Some are big, some are tiny. You hope that your successes massively outweigh your failures, and you learn really quick and you adapt to it. But it's just that's one of the most valuable things. If you're scared of failing, you'll never do anything, right?
Yeah. All right. So you just talked about, like, execution as well. So I watched that Netflix thing on, what is it? I don't know how to pronounce it. Theranos.
No idea.
It was all right. So it was a female entrepreneur that had figured out a way to test for something, some type of health condition with just a couple drops of blood.
Okay.
And she raised billions. I'm talking about more than $1 billion, I think, in dollars for this, and could never get it to the theory could never be actualized, right? But she kept getting money to keep this thing going. And I forget what it was. I mean, let me just look up here for a second, what that was.
Yeah, because I've never even heard of that, but I will admit that I got pissed off at Netflix because all of a sudden it's like, we're raising your price and running commercials. I'm like, feel free, I won't be there. I got pissed off about that. So it was like, we have so many streaming platforms, like, yeah, I cut that one loose. So I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, so she could just do multiple tests with just a few drops of blood instead of what they do now is pull vial upon vial upon vial, and they have to do multiple. The reason why they pull so many vials is that they have to do different tests on different amounts.
Okay.
And she had some theory that you could do multiple tests with just a few drops. So it's almost like a finger prick rather than going in and getting blood drawn, right?
Yep.
Of course, anybody wants to if you can do that, that changes the world, right? That's a world changing idea, super idea. The execution part is where she failed. I mean, not only she just couldn't get there with the machine that she built, but in the TV show, they had to build a fake one, and they were fudging just for the pressure of the financing that they got to impress investors or to keep getting investor money to come in. They kept fudging this over and over and over again, and finally to the point where it was fraud.
Yeah. Not good. No.
It's an interesting series, though. I don't think it's a movie; it's a series about her trying to get the idea off the ground and the business and the problems that she had while she was trying to get this business off the ground.
Yeah. Interesting. New segment. Last week we did Blaine's shit list. This week we're doing Blaine's hit list because I want to talk a little bit about execution.
Did we give up on shit list?
I could probably come up with
you're gonna
something
have,
at the end.
You're going to have two now? You're going to have two new segments?
We'll toggle. This week will be the hit list. Because
hey, I think you need to stick to your knitting over there.
Yeah, nice. Clever. I'm still diving in. Because talking about execution, because this is the difference. So my wife's birthday is coming up in a couple of days. So and my friend's wife's birthday, a friend of ours as well, was his birthday also in August. We thought, okay, we got to go for our birthdays. And so I'm looking online and I'm looking, and what I realized is how many restaurants have failed in Edmonton, especially over COVID. And some of them shouldn't have. They should not have. They were really good. But we went to, and I mentioned it before because we go to a restaurant called Rochefort in Edmonton all the time, like several times a week. We went to their other restaurant called Bianco in downtown Edmonton. And Wednesday night, a lot of people probably out of town. That place was packed. I think we had the last table in the place, right? And it was as close to perfection as I think I've had in this city. The food, the service, it was unbelievable. The food was freaking outstanding. And so Dave and his crew over there, just unbelievable. But that is like when you see there's restaurants failing and you see one like that is absolute, their execution is impeccable. Like it's just impeccable. And that, like I say, it's on my hit list, but it's also, I want to talk about that. Like, idea is almost worthless. You can imagine that, an idea. I'm going to open a restaurant. Okay, good for you. Good idea. Is that going to do anything? It comes down to the execution, right? Second one I'm going to mention here is we discovered, as I was searching through, I stumbled across a place in Edmonton called Slow Pour Beer Bar. And I'm like, interesting. How did I not know of these guys? Turns out they've been only open for about a year and a half, right? We bike by them every week, probably a block away. I had no idea they were there. But I thought, well, let's just, whatever. We'll go over, support them. We'll grab a beer. Here's where the execution mattered. We walked up, beautiful little place. I walked in. The people were so nice. And then I saw the beer list and went, shit, that is legit. That is absolutely legit. There's some beer stores in Edmonton that carry some beer that's really good mixed in with all the other stuff. these guys had a very good curated list. And I looked at it and went, that execution, that is what it'll take time. But the people that love beer in this city will start to go, those guys are dialed in. They know their beer. And I thought the execution was outstanding in that place. So I got to give a little props. So if you haven't been to Slow Pour in Edmonton and you like beer, they got a good beer list. Like they had some really good stuff there the other day. So I wanted to just sort of bring that up because there's this thought amongst early stage or people in the idea stage that they think the idea, it's all idea. No, it's all execution, guys. Like it's all execution.
You know, that's kind of what we did. We were at the front end of the craft beer curve in O'Fallon, Missouri, right? Bottoms Up Brew House, the pinup bar. We had 70 beers, and I argued monthly with the Budweiser distributor because I wouldn't carry any domestics on tap. Just on draft, wouldn't. So I'll put them in a bottle. So you can get a Bud Light or whatever hell you want in a bottle. I'm not putting it on tap. I mean, you got to be high end because I only had 15 or 20 taps out of the 70 beers that we carried. 15 or 20 were the ones that you came in and go, holy smokes, this guy gets it. He understands beer.
Yeah. And that's, that starts to get into those layers that it's, how do you compete? How do you compete? How do you get those returning customers? So much is on execution. And like, even in dry run, there's a few times where it's like, our execution was okay over here. We ignored over here and we dropped the ball where we shouldn't have. And you learn from that. That's those failures that you go, oh, we took our eye off the ball. And that's helped us figure out on the execution side, where do we focus? Where do we put our time? Where do we put our energy?
And I'll tell you what, right now, if you want to put your time and your energy and you want to put your eye back on the ball, you need to talk to my man Blaine over at Dry Run. I mean, what can they do over at Dry Run? All
right. I know there's some of you out there that are in spreadsheets every week trying to manage your cash flow and figure out what the hell's happening in your business, or most likely your client's business. And you have to go report to that management team. You got to have stuff together. If you got a single spreadsheet and it's a pretty simple, good, great. You probably have it under control. At some point you'll grow into the complexity where suddenly you'll go, oh, this is out of control. Come talk to us then. But if you're dealing with uncertainty in your cash flow right now, if you're dealing with some sort of level of complexity because you got multiple locations and tons of people and maybe multiple currencies, or you're in a fast growth and there's just all this like unknowns, or the big one for us we see all the time is just lumpy. You got big inflows of cash and then just big dry periods of cash, and it goes up and down. Any of those, come and talk with us at dryrun.com. We can help you. We will save you 90% of the time you're spending in spreadsheets, and we're going to give you something that you can talk about with your team because it's so clear.
Hey, I'll tell you, if you've ever been in this position where you felt like you were waiting on money to come in before you could make a payment on something else, you need to go talk to them and figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So where's the weirdest place you ever came up with an idea for a business? I mean, like what's oddball to you?
That I've come up for an idea for a business?
Yeah.
Man. Okay, the dumb thing here I'm going to say is I can't remember what the business idea was, because I do remember that we were some buddies of mine and I were, as usual, there was beer involved, and the part I remember is they started calling me Brain because it was such a good idea. I don't remember what it was, but it was such a good idea. But you know, the beer started to make it foggy. So, but you know, like I will say that maybe I'm a slow learner because Dry Run was like just death by 1,000 cuts. What, like, using a spreadsheet to figure the stuff out was like, it's like I got beat over the head for years, and that So it wasn't an instant flash of inspiration. It was this and I want to bring that up because I think sometimes you recognize that pain, but if you're feeling that pain, a lot of times it isn't this one-time thing. It's like it's just like chronic. It's like a toothache, right?
So for me, it's like this show, because sometimes we'll just be talking. We've come up with at least 2 ideas on this show, at least 2. Remember, one was the food truck directory, where I just know where you are, right? I know where the food truck's going to be any given moment. You just did that. That was an easy one. The one that I really think is not only dumb but fun, and I would watch, is, what was it, Pitch Pickup or something, Pitch Van? We would put entrepreneurs in a van or in a truck or something like that, and drive them around, and they would have X number of minutes, like from stoplight to stoplight or whatever, to pitch their thing. And then if they was terrible, we would kick them out of the truck, right? Wherever the truck was. If it was great and you were the last person to be in the truck at the end of the show, then you got an investment in your company.
Yeah.
You don't remember that one? That was like season 1 stuff.
Okay. I don't even remember that one, but I'm pretty sure that if you gave us enough time, we would come up with a bunch of stupid TV ideas that are better than 90% of the garbage that's streaming today, right? Like, it's, oh man.
I'd love to see somebody get kicked out of a truck. No, you're done. Just wherever it is, wherever we are, you just get kicked out of the truck.
We pitched. I still love this idea. We pitched a TV show. Man, it's probably 15 years ago or more, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. But we even had a really good character, and what he did is he was like a big, like, burly, it seemed like almost a gangster guy, but he removed tattoos. And what the hell was it called? We had a really clever name for it. But the idea was that you would see them you'd hear the story of why they got the tattoo, how they got the tattoo, while they're getting the painful removal. And then the reveal at the end was, because you've been hearing the whole time the story, right? And it's building up. And then the reveal was the tattoo they just got removed. And it was that was the ink off. That's what we called it, ink off. And there was this idea of building up to this removal, where at the end it's like, because you're just like, yeah, no, my ex was doing this and all this kind of stuff, and then at the end you get to see the tattoo that was removed. So it was just all story based, right? And I still think it was a great idea, but we couldn't get anyone to pick it up. So we maybe did a shitty job of pitching. That could have been the problem, but I think the idea was pretty good.
See, we could do pitch truck or whatever, pitch pickup, pitch pickup, right? Maybe that's it. Maybe in pitch pickup, you're on some random street corner and you flag down the pickup. Hey, I want to pitch. And then we just dump you off wherever you're at.
Just drop you off.
But actually, Ink Off, that's a great name too. I'm surprised somebody doesn't have that already.
I thought it was a really fun, really neat idea. But it just, and like the reason it didn't fly, like it could have been that they didn't believe we could execute, because execution is the big thing. It could be that it was the timing. It could be what they already had in the funnel. Like you never know all of the reasons, but that wasn't like pitching a business. It was pitching a show. You don't have control because you're trying to sell it you're just trying to sell something like an asset to somebody. Where a business, you got to find like a market, and you got to, I know there's some things related, but kind of, right? So it's not quite the same.
Yeah. So ideas are just odd. Generally, they come from solving a problem, like you said earlier. Sometimes it's necessity in your own life. I have to do something. I don't have a job. What can I do?
Yeah.
Right. Right. And I don't know that that's necessarily, it always goes to solving a problem. Sometimes you're like going, I don't know, my friend's got a bar for sale and I can afford it. Then you end up in the bar business.
Yeah. But you're still solving a problem. And that, like, if you buy the right business, or even if it's like, it's not like, because there's kind of two ways to start a business. One is like, okay, there's a problem, I'm going to go solve it. But the other way is, I want a business. I need a business. I got to earn some money. But, maybe in some ways that's actually even a better way to start, because the end goal is a successful business, right? And so you're trying to go like, okay, but I still got to solve a problem. But it could be that here's an opportunity that solves a problem. There's in this area of town, there's a gap in bars, and people are going to come and they want a place to hang out. And they want, like, that's still solving that problem. But maybe that's actually in some ways a better way to do it sometimes than just like, I got an idea, but does it really solve a problem? Where in that case, it's a bit more of, here's the end point I want to get to. Here's the goal I want to get to. How can I do it?
Well, when you're talking about solving a problem, I didn't want to buy a bar. I didn't go out and say that wasn't a lifelong dream of mine, right? It just wasn't, especially coming from being a state trooper. It's just like, oh, that's the last thing I want to do is just go deal with the same people that I dealt with as a state trooper. Just a little earlier. That's all. The fun side of it. But here was the thing, is that the problem I was trying to solve was a cash flow problem in my hotel staffing company. Because I had this receivables-based business. I'm always waiting on money. I'm like, well, maybe if I buy a cash-based business, I can bring more money in faster. Mm-hmm. That was the problem I was trying to solve. It wasn't about the bar. I looked at a whole bunch of things: motorcycle repair shop, a flower shop, a landscaping company. I looked at them like, who gets cash up front? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just happened to find that the bar was the most mismanaged of all of them. And I already had everything in place. I already had HR and accounting and all that. If you're mismanaged, I can definitely fix that. Right. Yeah. Because they had people coming in. There just was money leaking out everywhere. Yeah. So it's one of those things where it was the best opportunity to make cash fast and really grab it. Now, it took a long time to get there. Right? It took like 6-8 months just to kind of plug all the holes. Mm-hmm. But once we got there, it was a machine, right? It just ran. It just kind of. So I think you're right with the fact that, it's solving a problem, but with me, it was solving my own problem, not theirs.
Well, there's multiples, right? Like you're solving your own problem. The reason it was successful is because you were solving problems they didn't even know they had, because they weren't executing right. But the opportunity was there because they were solving a problem for the community. There was a gap in the market that you were solving. I guess the other way to look at it though is it's not just like you are solving a problem, but entrepreneurs always tend to be on the lookout for opportunity. That's the other thing, is just like, but that opportunity is that generally is like, that's what you're spotting, right? Here's something I can do. There's a gap in the market. There's something here people want, and they will pay me for it.
Well, just based on what you just said, made me think about like Airbnb, how they started. Meaning that there was whatever conference that is that's in San Francisco that's massive. I forget what it was. But you can almost not afford a room. There's 5,000 people or more that go to this conference. Every hotel gets packed up. If you want to stay in a hotel, it's going to be $1,000 plus a night.
Yeah.
These guys live downtown San Francisco and says, hey, what if we just put a bunch of air mattresses out here on the ground in our apartment and just say, listen, if you're coming to the conference, can't find a place to stay, $100 or $200, you can come sleep on an air mattress in our apartment. I'm serious. That's how it started. The idea was, shit, nobody can afford to come here. Is there a way we can do this? And there's two guys in an apartment like going, shit, there might be somebody that would go, I want to go to the conference. I don't want to pay $1,000, but I'll pay $100 or whatever to sleep on this guy's air mattress.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it hits all the fundamentals of business. Like they recognize a problem. They're like, okay, there's a problem. we have the ability to solve it because we have a location down here. And that leads to the innovation of, what if we rented out an air mattress? And it's not like, in a way, it's not that, all of that together has kind of been done for probably a long time. It's then what they said is, we could scale that up and give people a platform to do exactly that. And that was that lightning bolt. But the lightning bolt came from, again, like this solving a problem, seeing the opportunity, and it's like adding 2 and 2 together and going, yes, and here's our special sauce, that little twist.
Well, you know, that's why it's called Airbnb. It was from the air mattresses. Isn't that that's crazy. And that's one of those moments you're like going, why couldn't I think of something like that? You know, now that's even worse to me. I probably wouldn't have thought about it because just like with Uber and Lyft and all that, I'm like going, nobody's going to get in a stranger's car.
Interesting thing though is, I think it speaks a lot to, like, you can give credit to the Airbnb guys for like, $1 billion idea. Look at what it does. You rent out entire houses. People have got condos. They rent them out and everything. The fact it's called Airbnb, the way you explained it, they probably didn't see the level of opportunity at the start either, because they were picturing air mattress in their living room, and but it built up and suddenly it's scalable, but it went way bigger and way broader, I'm sure, than they ever imagined, right?
I think it was a Craigslist ad or something crazy like that started it. Need a place to stay for the convention. And that's how it started, with just something that simple and something that easy.
And that goes all the way back to those philosophies of like minimum viable product. Yeah. Like, you don't build the platform first, throw it on Craigslist and see if it works, and then start to get that next step and learn from that. And it's amazing how businesses grow and evolve. Like, I think it's really rare, if ever, that original sort of idea and execution really lines up with what it is 10 years down the road. It's just like Amazon. Amazon is the probably the best distribution company on the planet. I'm sure he may have had ideas beyond books, because originally it was an online bookstore, but I'm not sure that there was that recognition of really like what this actually turned into back then. I just don't think it's there's so many learnings and so many failures along the way, right?
Well, you know what's funny is that I read an article about Bezos, and he was like a hedge fund manager in New York or something like that. That's what it was. And he read an article that said there was like a 2,000% increase in online sales, people just buying shit online. And so he compiles this list of 20 products, and he settled on that 20 products that he thought people would buy online. And he just picked books. It ain't like he's like a bookworm. He's like, I'm going to be, the best thing in my life is books. He's like going, at the time, he's like going, that's something I think I can handle. That's something I can get my mind around, is books. So out of 20 products on a list, I think I can do books. And that's how it started. I mean, the idea came from reading an article that there was a bunch of people starting to grow their business online.
Yeah. And so that was basically identifying the opportunity, because you're kind of going, it's like reading the tea leaves and going, okay, that must really be solving a problem that people don't want to drive down to the store. I doubt very much that at that point he was envisioning the Amazon truck that goes through our cul-de-sac and probably every cul-de-sac in North America, way further, not even just North America, and dropped off like 9-volt batteries for my remote. Like, it's, it's like, I'm sure he wasn't picturing.
In 2 hours, you're like, I need Yeah, I need a fiddle hopper, and then boom, it's right
I
there.
can't believe you got that one in too. You have got the two for today. You worked in the 2 magic words in one day. That's it. Ah, nice work. Nice work. What is the smallest thing?
A softball.
What is the smallest thing you've ordered off of Amazon on its own?
There was something that was $2 or something. I'm trying to think of what it was. It was it's like a cable management system. It was like something really weird that I just needed for this one little application. It had like a sticker on the back, and it was like this, and I threw it on there, and it was here in the next day.
Oh, just comes. Yeah.
Like super crazy.
I ordered. I don't know if it's the smallest, but it's one I've ordered a number of times. Coffee filters, because I'm like, oh shit, we're out of coffee filters, and I don't want to run down to the store. And I remember a friend of mine gave me shit, and he's like, yeah, that's really bad for the environment. And I said, no, it's not. It's the opposite. Because if I get in my car and drive all the way down to the grocery store to buy coffee filters and drive all the way back, think of the inefficiencies and how much time, fuel, energy, everything that's actually wasted, when instead we have a full truck of stuff that's already coming through our cul-de-sac and dropping stuff off everywhere. Like, no, that's efficiency. That is unbelievable efficiency, right?
Dude, I'm almost, well, except for the fact when you see the same Amazon guy back in your neighborhood like 4 times that day.
Yeah, but
I've seen that. It's like
but they drop off a lot of stuff. So it is true.
Or it'll be 2 Amazon trips, and it'll be 4 other cars dropping stuff off from Amazon. Like people are doing it as part-time jobs. It's still more efficient because
it's still more efficient.
There would be that many people out there. What's funny about this delivery system stuff, we're not going to the grocery store even half as much as we used to. I even get to where I order beer and she orders wine off of off the internet. It just gets delivered to the house. She just had wine delivered to the house not too long ago. Like, that's pretty good. We didn't have to go. I didn't have to go. In the older days, she would go, hey, can you run to the store and get me wine? We don't have to do that anymore.
Okay. I will say we barely shop for anything, except I like to browse the beer section or in the Scotch section.
I do too. I drive out for.
Yeah, so it's the one thing I actually drive for is I almost always during COVID we used to have it delivered, but that's the one thing I drive for. We do that more than groceries. We go so I can browse around, but I do like, especially with the Scotch, I do a little pre-planning. I know what's new. Like I love that. It's like what's new in the store this week, and I'm like, what did they get in this week? I love that.
Yeah. So, all right. So this was an interesting one, right? Where's the idea come from? We didn't really touch on where do you get the courage to make that decision, right? I think it's bravery. I think it's courage. I think there's something where you say, I'm going to give up everything. Maybe we'll touch on it another day, but I don't think I got there, and I kind of wanted to, but we didn't get there. But if this is your first time, make sure you go to our website, go to mikeandblaine.com or just subscribe on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Engage with us on social media. We're really starting to like
Patrick.
That, so.
Pat's been messaging us here. I did get the messages. I
didn't even see it.
Yeah,
I didn't even see it.
He was just complimenting us, so I appreciate that, Pat.
Oh.
So
nice pass and catch. See, Pat really pays attention to the segue at the mid roll, right? Which is that place where you could actually have your company sponsored, and we would do the same thing for your company. It's just that when we don't have a big sponsor, Dry Run sponsors us or Cashflow Mike sponsors us, and we just pass it back and forth. Yep. That was a nice pass and catch. Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, no, it's beauty. This is a good one.
Yeah, Pat goes, that's a twofer. Yeah. remember, hey, Pat, remember? Because Blaine was kicking my ass. He was getting those in like just left and right and left and right. And again, if you don't know what we're talking about, there's 2 magic words we try to put in every single episode, and they are.
Yeah, it's fiddle hopper and sticking to your knitting. But I think I had a run of about 8 weeks in a row. And so you really, and of both of them, so you really nailed it today. So That's maybe it was this 11.5% I got going today. Maybe it slowed me down.
Got a little fuzzy brain going on. I get it.
Really nice beer, though.
Appreciate you. Glad we could get this done. Episode 154 is in the books.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.